Frankie from Flatbush rides the Brooklyn line. Got a swagger sharp like a vintage wine. Everybody knows his name from porch to stoop. Hustling dreams in every loop. In the park he struts, hits the handball wall. Echoes hear the stories when the shadows fall. Got 1,000 tales and a confident grin. On the streets of Flatbush where legends begin. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Bodega lights flicker when Frankie's near. He's got the rhythm, everybody cheers. Corner talks and sidewalk chalks his fame. In the Flatbush breeze you'll hear his name. Underneath the subway hum, the magic's real. Frankie's moves got that electric feel. From Atlantic Avenue to the urban hill, Flatbush Frankie's giving you a thrill. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Bodega lights flicker when Frankie's near, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Always on the go. Always on the go. Always on the go.
All right, let me know if you can hear me and see me in the chat. Okay, it's Coffee with Frankie. It's Sunday morning. It's April the 6th. Can you believe we're already into April in 2025? It's 10:03 hours here on the East Coast of America as we begin Coffee with Frankie on a Sunday morning. This is the coffee, and it is yummy. And I am the Frankie, less yummy. But let me know if you can hear and see me okay. Looks okay on my end, but you never know. Let me know if you can hear the bell. We try to ring a bell whenever we do something significant, or as AC/DC said, I've got my bell, I'm going to take you to hell, as part of their classic Hell's Bells. I don't know if Hell's Bells would sound like this. It seems a little too cheerful for a Hell's Bells. All right, so it seems like all the audio video is good to go. We got some people in the chat. That's always nice. Todd is here. Good to see Todd. Hope all the animals are doing well, Todd. JoJo's here. JoJo was a man from Tucson, Arizona, said the Beatles. Phil Adams, speaking of the Beatles, Phil Adams is from where the Beatles are from. That would be England, across the pond. Not exactly the same town. They were Liverpudlians, and that's not Phil Adams, but still the same country. Countrymen. JoJo says, I'm ready for some Frankie knowledge. All right, we're going to get some. Todd says, audio is good so far. Yeah, that little glare, you're right, Todd. It's coming from this light. I got basically this overhead light. If you remember when I first moved in here, there was no light up there. I had to get them to put it in. And so now it works good for lighting up the room, but it's like where it is exactly, it gives a little glare up there. You're right, Todd. Joe Mike is here. Morning, Frankie and Fanatics. Good to see you, Joe. Joe says the bell is ringing. All right, we got it going on. Jojo says too much. We're going to get right into this, Jojo. Don't you worry. Jojo was a man from Tucson, Arizona. Get back, Jojo. Uh, trade down, trading away, good players. Let's talk about it. That's actually topic number one, Jojo. You hit it right on the head, buddy. Let's get rid of this caption down here. Music is over, Frankie. Wait a minute. Here it is. Hide this. Goodbye. Let's go instead to topic number one. What's topic number one on this Sunday morning? Well, it's right what Jojo was talking about. Trade down with the Falcons? This is a rumor. We got a lot of rumors going around. Now, Matt O'Leary did a video on this that I saw, and it's very informative to watch some of the videos of some of the more popular YouTubers, the Jet YouTubers, and how they do these videos. I'll just leave it at that. But here's what, let's see what's, no, we don't want that. Let's see what is causing this rumor to happen. Well, it was a tweet. We got a little tweet. J Ben. Hide this, make it a little bigger. Okay, so we can all read. Let's see, J Ben. I'm told Falcons have reached out to the Jets to swap 7 and 15. This is the big rumor. As they eye Jalen Walker. Bing. Front office wants to make a splash with pass rush and feel that Parsons, Micah Parsons, is no longer attainable. So apparently the Falcons were trying to attain Micah Parsons. Now, we got to take this with a grain of salt. Who's this J Ben guy? This is someone who says he was a former Atlanta sports radio host, reporter, writer. He doesn't say for where, but so take this with a grain of salt, but it seems like an okay-ish source anyways. But it's going to be interesting to talk about anyway. And then this says, with Saints and Panthers both needing pass rush, and that's who's after us at 7, Falcons want to beat them to Walker. And so they really like Walker for pass rush, so they're hot for Walker, so they want to trade with us. And it says if a trade happens, it'll be draft night situation, and more than likely means they also give up a 2026 first as well. All right, so that's the rumor, and it makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of logic in there. Jalen Walker is going to be a hot property. He's probably going to go somewhere right after we pick, so makes sense. Now let's look at the draft board here to understand where they are. Now there is they're down here at 15, Atlanta. So we would have to go back all the way to 15 in order to do this trade. Now it makes a lot of sense. We need to stockpile some picks. If we can get a first out of it next year, that's good. Now, but let's take a look at the draft value chart. If you're going to understand any team's stuff, you need to look at the draft. You need to look at some sort of draft value chart. The one I'm using is Draft Tech here. Let me make this a little bigger. So we understand the value of what we're doing. So to go back to 15, we're basically giving up 500 points of draft capital value. But we're getting a first round pick next year. Now, I think Atlanta's going to be pretty good next year. I think they're probably going to be in, the 12, 13 range. I believe in Michael Penix. I think he's really good. But the problem with getting a pick next year, you don't know where that pick is. Atlanta could have a bunch of injuries and have a terrible season, and then the value's way high. Or everything could come together. Penix comes through, and he's fantastic. And they make a playoff run or something, and now the value's way down here. So because of that, I would say to Atlanta, okay, that sounds good, but you're going to have to throw in something else. I don't want just another first-round pick next year. That's good, but I want something else. I mean, we're giving up 500 points this year to get, I don't know, depends what you think. I mean, it's around 1,000 if they're in the same spot next year. So we're basically giving up 500 if they're exactly the same, and if they're better, which they probably should be, then it's even more value we're giving up. So I would say they got to throw in something else. I'm not just taking a first round pick. I want something else in the trade. Well, what else could we get? What I would ask for is this right here, which is the 46th pick, but they're not going to give us that. I mean, they're not, they're really not. But I would ask for it and then let them say no, and we'll say, okay, we'll give you a choice. Now, the problem is they don't have a third round pick this year, as far as I can see. And I hate all these extra third round picks because of comp picks. But anyway, fourth round, they do have a fourth rounder, and it's here, 118. So I would say they get a choice. They could either give us the 118th pick plus the one next year plus the swap, or they could give us a player. The kind of player that I want to get from their team is like a backup tight end or a backup linebacker type. You're not going to get a great player or anything like that, but a role player, somebody who's okay, maybe, plays special teams and then plays a role on your squad. So the guys I like on their team for that would be Charlie Werner, is a tight end who's a good blocker. They might want to give him up because he's not a huge part of their offense or anything. And a linebacker like a Troy Anderson, who's a backup linebacker for them, has a lot of athleticism, can do a lot of things for you, but isn't exactly a superstar or a major part of their team. So that's what I would say, and it's your choice. You give us one of those guys or the fourth round pick plus the one next year. I mean, if you're hot, don't forget they're hot. They're coming up. Let's look at these guys here. Here's the consensus big board. They're hot for Jalen Walker now. So we're here at 7. Jalen's like 11. They're down at 15. You're not going to get him at 15. Sorry. Now, if we do this, what does that mean for us in the first round, though? Regardless of what we get comp-wise back, means we're out of 7, so we're probably not going to get Membu. We're probably not going to get Cambu. We're not going to get Genty. We're not going to get Graham. We're not going to get Tyler Warren. So we got to start looking at the guys we could get. So one of the guys we could get that would probably be number 1 on my list is Kelvin Banks. So if we made this trade back and got Kelvin Banks anyway, I mean, that's pretty good. How much better is Membu than Banks? It's up for debate, of course. But Banks projected number 14. We'd be sitting there at 15. Hopefully he falls to us. If not, well, there's a lot of good options. You could get Michael Williams, an edge. We do need edge. Mike Green. Some people really love Mike Green, for example. Matthew Golden you could get. If we, or Colston Loveland. A little bit of a stretch. He's 20th, but if we wanted to, if we were thinking we were going to get Tyler Warren, why not get the next best, Colston Loveland? Then we got our tight end pass catcher. Hopefully, he can block a little better than some others. And then we just proceed as if it's basically if we get a Colston Loveland, then we proceed as if we had gotten Tyler Warren. Same thing as with Kelvin Banks. If we get Kelvin Banks, we proceed as if we had gotten Membu or Cambu. So a lot of good options at 15. So I kind of like this from our point of view, and really just depends how hot they are to move up and how realistic the trade is, which I don't know. But I would definitely be open to it because we could really use an additional pick this year and, of course, next year as well. It's really what we want to do. So that's really the rumor, and it's kind of an interesting, intriguing, juicy rumor where we could really help our team build up with one trade down without really hurting it too much. Um, so I kind of like it from all angles. I think it all depends upon um, how hot they are to get up to 7. You trade, yes. Molon says trade down. Yeah, yeah. We need more picks. I mean, really, we're just we got to give Glenn and the boys some ammunition. Joe says any trade where we're getting a number 1 round pick for next year, sign me up. Well, the only problem is you don't know where that pick's going to be, right? So it's like you don't know how good the Falcons are going to be. I particularly think they should be good. There's really no. Now, the other thing to keep in mind with this one, Raheem Morris, I think, is already on the hot seat. I think the Falcon fans and the ownership there, they need to start winning already. They've been ever since the retirement of not the retirement, but ever since they got rid of Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and that whole crew, they have not been good, and they have been supposed to be good for a while. They went through the Arthur Smith phase, and now they're back with Raheem. And I think Raheem Morris is on the hot seat over there. And so they might be a little bit desperate. And same thing with Fontenot, the GM. At some point, you got to stop being 7-10, and you got to start winning. And I think they have the quarterback now, Michael Penix. They have some really good players. They have a good offensive line. They have good receivers. They have everything you want. The defense is a little shaky, so this fortifies their defense. Then they hope Penix actually does take the next step, and they're a playoff team. And so that being the case, maybe they want to overpay. And we could be the benefit of two guys who might be on the hot seat and looking to get themselves on the right track so that ownership and the fans and everybody says, okay, we're moving in the right direction. We got it. I think the Falcons pretty much have to make the playoffs this year. Raheem could get fired, even though everybody thinks and knows that Raheem Morris is a really good coach. I think he might be a little desperate, and so yeah. See, like JoJo says, throw in Pitts. Like they're not going to throw in Pitts. If you're going to get a guy, you're going to get because don't forget they're looking to win, JoJo. They're not going to just give you Kyle Pitts. If you want Kyle Pitts, you got to give them buku stuff. Throw-in guys are just role players that nobody really thinks too much about. Like a Charlie Warner is a guy you could move because, yeah, he'd be a nice role player for us, but he's not going to, alter the trajectory of the franchise of the Atlanta Falcons, right? So that's the type of guy you're going to get. But I think they might be a little desperate. JoJo says plenty of options at pick 15. Yeah, we do have some holes. We're going to talk about wide receiver. I think it's less of a hole than people think. But Banks or Loveland would be nice. Plus two number one next year. Yeah, right. That's the other thing, Joe, right? If you have more ammunition next year, if Fields doesn't work out. Now, my theory, in case you missed it, said it in a few of these videos already. In case, and it's good, I think, context. I think what the Jets are doing this year is basically what I'm calling Fields maxing. We're trying to max out Justin Fields' potential and talent and see if he can be the guy that so many people thought he could be ever since basically he was in high school. And so we're not going to. So I think we're not going to pick a quarterback in the draft at all. Personally, I think we'll sign one as a UDFA. Um, and the idea being, all right, let's see if that could work this year. If it works, great. You extend him. We're done with quarterback, and we move on, and we just keep going like that. But then if it fails, right? We don't have much of a commitment. He can become a backup next year. It's no problem. And then we probably have to move up in the draft, depending where we are. And so having two first-round picks helps with that. If we need to move up, we get some ammunition to do so to get the quarterback. So it helps in a lot of ways, and it's always beneficial, usually, to move back. JoJo says picking up an extra second or third rounder would be nice. Yeah. The Finns, well, I don't think the Dolphins matter too much. The Dolphins at 13. I mean, uh, the Dolphins sort of perennially need offensive line. Teron Armstead just retired. So, like, they could take Banks. So maybe this is what Phil's getting at right here. Like, they might take Banks. All right, they take Banks. Maybe we take Green or we take Loveland. I mean, You got to be sure that you have a bucket of players that you're comfortable with, a bunch. Because Miami's probably taking an O line, right? I would think so. Teron Armstead just retired. In case people missed the news from yesterday, as expected, I guess. Armstead said, I'm not, too many injuries. I'm out of here." So now, Miami, and they sort of perennially need offensive line. They've had trouble, like a lot of teams, getting that offensive line right. So they might take Banks if Membu and Cambu are gone, right? So they might take Banks. All right. Well, what do we get? Well, maybe we take Loveland then. Or we take one of those edge players. We kind of do need edge players. I mean, if you think about our edge, it's Jermaine Johnson coming off an injury, Spinny McWhinney, who's good against the pass but not against the run, at least so far, and then Michael Clemens and a bunch of UDFAs. We're pretty thin there, to be honest. We're going to take edge at some point in this draft. Just depends when. So that's really where we are. I mean, I think there's enough good players at 15 where we can't we're not too worried about who goes where. For example, if Tyler Warren starts falling, he's not going to get past Indianapolis at 14 probably. Everybody says the Colts really are really high on him. So that's the pick right before us. So even if a guy like Tyler Warren starts falling, we're probably not going to get him. But I think there's enough guys there that make sense for the Jets where this could really work. Jojo, yep. Todd, smash the like. Yeah, if you anybody here who would like to help out the channel, you can smash the like button. You can really help out. Oh, Frankie, I'd appreciate it. And anybody new, please subscribe to the channel. Trying to get these new subscribers, so I'd appreciate your help with that. Phil says getting the number one right tackle, number one tight end would help Fields best, wouldn't it? Yeah, I mean, just getting guys who can play. I mean, now if we don't get the right tackle in round one, we got to get him in round two then. Like, there's no doubt about it. We need a right tackle upgrade. We cannot go into the season with the depth that we have. No way. So, whether that's Ursery or Connor Lee or whoever falls into the second round, we got to get him at that point. You can't wait any longer. You either get him in, excuse me, either get him in round one or round two. You cannot wait around for right tackle, in my opinion. They're just too rare and they go off the board too quickly. They're too hot of a commodity. So that's that. Let's see. Harlan's got a big statement. Don't need to trade up. Well, yeah. Well, these are sometimes you have to trade up, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes they fall into your lap. The Chiefs, for example, famously had to trade up to get Patrick Mahomes. So there's lots of counter examples to anything anybody says in football. That's one of the great things. So sometimes you have to trade up, sometimes you can stay where you are, and sometimes you can trade back. Duncan Lloyd is here. Good to see you, Duncan. Appreciate that. All right, so I think we've exhausted that topic. The trade down with the Falcons. But trading down in general is a good idea. We need more picks. We need more dart throws. So let's go to topic number 2. Let's see. How bad is the need for wide receivers? So something that's been a topic of conversation amongst Jet fans, there we go, is, boy, we really need a wide receiver. Should we take Ted McMillan? In round 2, can we grab one of these guys? And I think we might have a little bit more than we think on the roster as it is. Let's take a look at the roster to remind ourselves who we have. Let's take a look at this over here. All right. Here's our roster, and you might look at this and say, yeah, Frankie, that's not a lot of wide receivers. We need one. What are you talking about? We need one or two. So there's a couple of things that I think are worth thinking about. I think, for example, Stone Smart that we signed is more of a wide receiver, really. If you watch the tape on Stone Smart, and I did a film study breakdown on him, if you missed it, you can go back and watch that. Um, Stone Smart is more of a big wide receiver type. I think of Stone Smart, he has the potential to be like a Mike Gesicki type. Is Mike Gesicki really a tight end? He's a tight end in title, but he never blocks anybody. Now, Stone Smart can block a little bit, but I think for the most part, Stone Smart could be considered a wide receiver because when he's in the game, we could just flex him out wide and use him like a wide receiver. And it's what's even better about it is when you have a tight end like that, when you bring in your personnel packages, whether it's 11 personnel, 12 personnel, the other team has to react with their defense against that personnel package. So Stone Smart comes in, let's say it's 12 personnel. He comes in, let's say Ruckert's our starting tight end. We don't want that, but let's just say for uh, illustration purposes. So we have 12 personnel. So Ruckert and Smart are there, and Ruckert's going to stay in and block, and Smart's going to go out for a pass. Well, the defense has to react to that 12 personnel grouping, and typically, they'll respond to that with a heavier personnel. So maybe their base package, and then you've got Stone Smart flexing out, and going out for a pass, just like a wide receiver would, and he's now got mismatch problems for the defense because he's fast and tall and big and can catch the ball. So it's essentially like having an additional wide receiver, and it's a little sneaky because when you bring in your personnel package, you force the defense to respond to that personnel package, and they will typically respond in the way that as if he's a regular old tight end in line and try to defend you that way. But really, he has wide receiver skills in a tight end's body. So I think people forget that, and that could be an additional weapon that we have. And I think that's why we signed him. Now, the other two things we got. Number one, I do think Josh Reynolds is underrated. If you follow Joe Blewett, for example, on X of Jets X Factor, you'll see he's doing some tape breakdowns of Josh Reynolds, and he's basically coming to the conclusion, which I have already come to, which is Josh Reynolds is a very underrated receiver. Not going to catch 1,000 yard, not going to catch for 1,000 yards, not going to be blow your doors off, but can play a role in this offense, which is the second fiddle to Garrett Wilson very well, I think. So that's one thing. And I think also this guy, Malachi Corley, Malachi. I think Malachi Corley in this offense, we're going to run an RPO type style of offense. And in that type of offense, Malachi Corley can do very well. How do I know that? Well, because that's what he did in college. Let's take a look at something. Some of the teach tape that they have. Let's look at this here. So this is some teach tape. This is called a slice route. Let's take a look. And again, this is teach tape on CoachTube. And this is essentially a slice route. This is Western Kentucky. This is Malachi Corley right here in the slot, left slot. And the quarterback is Bailey Zappi. And a lot of these plays where they're teaching you about the RPO type of offense, they're using examples of Malachi Corley in college. This is the point: is that they're he's the example, and the type of offense is this Western Kentucky offense with Bailey Zappi as the quarterback. This is Bailey Zappi over here. I wish that it would be able to pick up my mouse or any kind of movement better. I don't know if that's a restream thing or what. But anyway, so what's going to happen is on this play, all of the offensive linemen are going to be blocking down to the left, and then Corley is going to slice behind them And basically, the idea is you get the defense flowing to the offense's left, then you bring Corley behind the line of scrimmage, slicing behind them out to the flat. Easy pass for the quarterback to make, easy catch for Malachi, and there you go. And this is a staple of RPO offenses. We're going to implement an RPO offense. He's on the teach tape for all these RPO options that Western Kentucky ran while he was there, and that he did very well. So why is it that Malachi Corley can't have a bigger role? I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be an all pro or anything, but why can't he catch 40, 50 passes? I don't understand why not. That's what he did in college. That's what he should have been doing when he came to us. I think the previous regime was very stubborn. They didn't want to do. They didn't want to I don't know. They didn't want to utilize the personnel that they had. Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji have said we're going to build everything around the personnel that we have, which is great to hear. But now we got to see it implemented. And we have a guy who can do that. So why can't we get 30, 40 catches out of Malachi? You know, I don't see any reason why not. You know, I mean, this is a third round pick. It's not a UDFA. Let me decrease this. How do I? And this is a third round pick that everybody had graded as a third round pick. So he's a guy that everybody saw some talent in, and we just refused to use it. You know what I mean? So last year. But I think we have a lot more talent on the roster for wide receivers than people think. And I think with the type of offense we're going to run, we're not going to be throwing the ball that much. I mean, how many times are we going to throw the ball? 25? Put in the chat what was the average number of pass attempts? What was the average number of pass attempts that Justin Fields had in the 6 games he started with the Pittsburgh Steelers? What do you think? Average, there were 6 games he started. On average, in those 6 games, how many pass attempts do you think Justin Fields had? Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. On average, how often do you think Justin Fields was passing the ball last year? Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. Because that's really going to determine a lot because with Aaron Rodgers, we were throwing the ball all over the damn place. We were not committed to the run. Phil 18, PC says 18, Phil Adams says 15. Any other guesses? Any other guesses? Keep them coming, keep them coming. Aaron Rodgers was throwing the ball a lot. One of the reasons that he put up good counting stats was the fact that we were throwing the ball constantly. We did not commit to the run, and I think we're going to do it different. All right, so PC says 18, Phil says 15, Sodak says 20, Harlan says 20, JoJo says 18 to 20. That's not that's a range, JoJo. That's not an average. The actual number is 26, so you guys are low. So he was throwing it 26 times, and that's about what I think we're going to do, 25, 26, 27, something like that. And then, 12 of those are going to Garrett. Targets, these are. Attempts. And Morris says 12. No, it's 26. So, and that's low for a modern NFL offense. That's the point. Rodgers was throwing way more than that. And 12 of those 26 that we're going to throw about are going to Garrett. So that only leaves 14, left for everybody else. For Josh Reynolds and Brees. Guess who our second leading receiver is going to be next year, by the way? I just mentioned his name. It's going to be Brees Hall. Brees Hall is going to get a lot of targets. He's going to get 5, 6, 7, 8 targets a game. So that doesn't leave a lot for everybody else. I mean, Malachi can't get 3 targets a game in a slice round. I mean, I don't understand. So I think we have more talent than people think. Josh Reynolds, I think, is underrated, and Malachi was underutilized. And I think this regime is going to go back to his college tape for Malachi, just like they said with Justin Fields. They said, well, we went back to his college tape and watched what he was good at there, and we're going to utilize some of those things. I was like, oh, that's great. That's good. So you'd think they're going to do the same with Malachi. Like, okay, here's a guy everybody thought that he was going to be a contributor, at least in some way, and he did virtually nothing. So I think they went back to his college tape and took a look, and they're going to utilize him better. Sodak says 6 wins incoming. Yeah, we don't know how many wins. Then you got tight ends, right? Then you got tight end. I mean, so we're talking for Malachi. How many targets? I mean, 3 targets a game, 4. I mean, he can't do that, and that's all we need him to do. And if he catches 4 passes for 25 yards, that's good. For the role we need him to play. Uh, Garrett's going to be the superstar. Brees is superstar B, 1A, 1B. And then, and then everybody else. The tight end's going to get a lot of stuff. Josh Reynolds is going to get some targets. And then Malachi. And then we're going to be running the ball a lot, I think. Grove Pete says, I have watched a lot of film from last year, retired with nothing better to do. Well, it's always good to watch the film, Grove Pete, I will say. I mean, especially if you're watching the All 22 Grove. I mean, it teaches you a lot more than the TV copy. I'll tell you that much. Tell me if you think Grove Pete, if you think watching the All 22 informs you a lot better than um, the TV copy. When you watch the TV copy, there's a lot that goes on that you don't see. That's the problem, and gives people the wrong impression. When you watch the All 22, you're like, oh, there's so much. There's so much going on. You see the why behind the result. You know what I mean? Jojo says probably won't draft a receiver till 4 or 5 rounds. Yeah, if one's there that we like, I'll give you a name that I like. He might slip, and that's why I like it. If a guy like this slips to the 6th round, you grab him, and that's Xavier Restrepo. That guy. A lot of guys were high on Xavier Restrepo scouts. He ran a poor 40 time, so apparently he's slow. Even though there's a lot of game film saying he's not exactly slow, but I think that's a guy you take a chance on in the 6th round. A guy who had a very high. People thought very highly of until he ran the 4.840 or whatever he ran. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But that's the kind of guy in the 6th round you take a flyer on. It could be a really good possession receiver for you. Plus, he would have a big chip on his shoulder, which is always good. Joe Mike says you should be getting some production. Yeah, exactly. This is what I didn't understand last year, Joe, and we asked about it, and a lot of people were saying, yeah, he got benched because of what he said after he dropped that. Remember, he had that fumble at the goal line, that stupid play. And it was a boneheaded play for sure. And then a lot of people said the reason the Jet Brass benched him was what he said afterward in the press, that he wasn't really, I don't know, contrite enough or something. But if that were the case, I think you bench him for one game. You say, look, Malachi, fix this. And when the press asks you about it, you got to say something more like this, this, and this, whatever. Bench him for one game. But they benched him the whole season, never got him in there. It was crazy. And yeah, he's a 3rd round pick. So he's a talented guy, and we just decided not to use that talent. Now, maybe Aaron Rodgers had something to do with it. Aaron Rodgers is very particular about his wide receivers. Maybe he just didn't like the way Corley was running routes, or I don't know. Rodgers is very finicky, especially with rookie wide receivers. That's been the way it's been since Green Bay days. So maybe that had something to do with it that we don't know about. But with the new regime, I don't see why we can't get something out of this guy. He has talent. It's obvious. He's on the teach tape for all these routes that we're going to be running in this offense. So it's the way it is. Grove says, I single out our new FA, free agents, I guess, and Lions to get a feel on A. Glenn. Okay, but are you watching all 22 or are you watching the TV copy? That's the important thing. Sodak says, Jedrick Wills still out there. If we don't take a right tackle draft, do you sign that injured Muppet? Well, we're taking a right tackle in the draft. I mean, Sodak, if we don't sign if we don't sign or if we don't draft, I can't even speak it in, it's so ridiculous. If we don't draft a right tackle in this draft, you will see me on camera having a conniption. By the way, speaking of the draft and conniptions, we will be going live. Round one, day one is a Thursday night, April 24th, I believe it is. And so I'll be on camera. We'll see it live. So hopefully you guys will join me and we'll see what we do in round one. Then I'm going to come back Friday night, rounds two and three. At that point, by the end of that night, by the end of Friday, we should have our right tackle round one, two, or three. I mean, I'm up saying it's got to happen in the first two, but but who knows? Maybe it's round three. If we don't have one by then, I will throw a conniption. I promise you. I will throw a conniption on tape, Sodak. I will flip out if we do not draft a right tackle in round one, two, or three. Gotta happen. Gotta have it. Now, let's say, I guess the one way to put this is like, let's say some incredible value dropped to us. Travis Hunter is available at 7 for some crazy reason. Not going to happen, but I don't know. Trades, something. I don't know. Travis Hunter's there at 7. We got to take him. Like, you got to take. Then pick 42 comes along and, you know, Mike Green is available or some craziness. And we just have to take them because they're just so good. And then we don't get the tackle in the first three rounds, something crazy like that, where we got like awesome players, but we missed out on a right tackle. Okay. Well, then I guess we're signing Jedrick Wills. But there's a reason why nobody signed him yet. But I guess, I mean, yeah, that would be the way, Sodak. I mean, either we had the greatest first three rounds ever in the history of the draft, but we missed out on the right tackle because we got Travis Hunter and Alfred Collins and you know Mason Taylor. Some that's there's not going to happen, but something like that, and then we miss out on right tackle, and then we get one. But even if that happened, right, round four, we would have to take one. We would have to. I mean, you gotta, you cannot have Max Mitchell and Carter Warren and Chooks Okorafor. But yeah, I guess in that crazy scenario where we just have like an all-time draft, but happen to miss out on right tackle, then you sign Jedrick Wills, I guess. Yeah, that would be the only way, Sodek. That would be the only way. I think. I think. But I always, and I'm an O line. I don't know what you want to call it. An O line stand. I'm going to always want offensive linemen and more offensive linemen. JoJo says Rodgers was too stubborn. Yeah, and it's not only Mike Williams. He was the same way in Green Bay. He's just sort of he's actually kind of famous for this. So it wasn't just Mike Williams. It wasn't just the Jets. He was the same thing in Green Bay, and that's what kind of the way he's always been. So Grove says watching YouTube. Oh, okay, I see. Nah, we don't want to see Frankie flipping out. We don't want to see it, man. But it should be fun. I will say, Sodak, it will be fun. Friday, Thursday, and Friday. I'm not going to do a day three. I'm not going to come back on Saturday and fifth, sixth round. I'll do videos probably on all the picks, I guess. Reaction to them. But I'm not going to do a live stream on Saturday. I'll do is I'll come back and do coffee with Frankie on Sunday, and then we'll just recap the draft class. And of course, once the draft class is over and we've drafted all the guys, then we will love them, no matter who they are. They'll be the best prospects ever because we took them. Todd reminds, please hit the like button. Yes, please do hit the like button. And if you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. We have a goal of getting up to 1,000 subscribers, and we got a long way to go. So if you could help us out with that, we'd appreciate it. And there's also the join button if you're interested in joining the Inner Circle. Oh, I should remind Inner Circle members, if you're an Inner Circle member, draft guide. So the PFF draft guide has been posted to the folder. So if you're an Inner Circle member, you got the PFF draft guide. You will also get, and also the previous draft guides from Dane Brugler and PFF and a couple other draft guide things. And then when Dane Brugler drops his new one, which should be this week or next week, I will get it, and then Inner Circle members will have it. So one of the benefits, you pay $5 a month to be in the Inner Circle. You get all these draft guides for free. So that's a value, and you can take a look. Now, Dane Brugler's, I would say, is the best, but you also got your PFF one. That's pretty good. And I think Dane Brugler's is probably the best one. And you get that for free. You could look at the previous year ones. If you want to know, okay, this guy came out in 2024. Let me go back and see, what did Dane Brugler write about? Let's say we acquire some guy or something. Where did he rank? Was he in the top 10, top 20? What did Dane Brugler say about him? Well, we got the 2024 draft guide in there. You can go look it up and see what was said about some guy that we acquired and so forth. So that's a value, one of the many values that you get for joining the Inner Circle. You do that by clicking the join button underneath the video. All right, enough for the schmoozing on that. Phil Adams says, I'm hoping 99%, of the 2024 Jets problems down to poor coaching. No, I wouldn't say that. And that AG will provide a massive bounce effect. I wouldn't say that, Phil. I would say I like the way we're trying to change the culture. I love the move in silence thing. Like a mute driving a new hybrid, we're getting ready to move in silence. I like move in silence. You notice it's not just a slogan. We have not done a press conference for any of the people we signed as free agents, for example. So basically, I think part of the move in silence thing is going to be we only do um, the league required uh, amount of press, and then we just keep our mouths shut and we let our play speak for us. Keep it quiet. We move in silence, like the G in lasagna. Silent. Silencio. I like it. But I think our coaching staff was probably average last year, Phil. They're not bad coaches. Salah's not a bad coach. Ulbricht's not a bad coach. The defensive staff was not bad. Hackett was not good, but he was a Rodgers flunky. On the offensive side, it was Aaron Rodgers runs the show. That was part of the problem. It's not a bad thing when Aaron Rodgers of 5 years ago runs the show because he was so talented, so amazing. Okay, you call a play, he changes it, he does his little hand signals and whatever he's going to do. And he was so talented, you go, all right, cool. It works. But now the man's 41, 42 years old when he was playing for us, and it didn't work with that scenario of let this quarterback handle it, which, hey, if you're getting results, that's fine. But he was too injured, too old, not good enough, and to do that. So I don't even really think Hackett's a bad coach. I just think the combo of Hackett, Rodgers, and the way they worked didn't work in in this year. For Rodgers' where he is in his career now. It worked 5 years ago, sure, but not now. So that was the problem there. It wasn't even that Hackett was a bad coach. Now, why they didn't use Malachi in decisions like that those are bad decisions, in my opinion. But so it's not even that the coaching will be better. It's that I guess is how you look at it, right? It's like if the coaches utilize the players to their full extent, like we have Corley here. What's the point of not using Corley? You're not going to. Did he really teach him a lesson or whatever? Like he's here. If he shouldn't be here, then cut him, get rid of him, trade him, do something. But he's here. Why not utilize this? This is the same argument that we've had all these years for Denzel Mims and all these guys. If they're here and they have a skill set that you can see with your eyes if you're watching them, why not utilize that skill set in some form or fashion, even if it's in a minor capacity? This was something I never understood with the Salah regime. So you could say, well, that in itself is better coaching. Well, okay, that's true, and we'll see. And a lot of it's going to revolve around how good Justin Fields plays in this offense. And that's a big question mark. Nobody knows. I mean, don't keep in mind, Vegas has us down for 5.5 wins. 5.5. That means they look at the roster and go, that's like the second worst in the league. Now, that doesn't mean that's what we're going to have, but nobody's looking at the roster going, wow, that's amazing. But they're also not looking at all of the in-depth technical things that we're going to do and that could, if you look at it optimistically, work, and it could not work either. But it hasn't been proven. For example, Justin Fields has not proven yet that he can be a full-time starter year long and win football games. That has not been proven out yet. And like I said, we're doing Fields maxing, so we're going to try to see if we can maximize that kid's potential. And boy, would it be nice if we were able to. It'd be so fantastic. And um, and so it's possible that could work, but it's also possible that it doesn't work. But if it works, then we're going to obviously win more than 6 games. But Vegas has us down for 5.5. Is probably where Sodak got his 6-win season incoming. But that's what Vegas has us down for, and it's understandable why. So PC says, we've seen Frankie flip a few times. Yeah. You know what got me the most was Chooks Okorafor. Like, why did the news have to come out on the same day that we did not spend $5 million on Levi Owanzurike that we could have easily spent, but we signed Chooks Okorafor. That day was a bad day for Frankie. I tell you that much. Grove Pete, check out Andre Cisco. He hits like a truck. Yeah, he's good. I would say Andre Cisco is a rock and roll safety. So what's nice about Andre Cisco is he has both abilities. You can play him in the box and you can play him in coverage. Now, he's got a bunch of splash plays in coverage where he makes interceptions, which is great, but he's also got a bunch of plays where he gets completely lost and burned in coverage. So, but I do think he's going to be more of our strong safety who can cover if you need him to. So that's nice, actually, that he can do both. And I think he's going to be down in the box a lot. So we'll see how he performs this year. I think it was a good value signing, $7.5 million for a guy like that. If he performs well, you extend him, we'll see. Players always fall for some reason, Harlan says. Other players get taken high for some reason. Ah, yes. Sodak, Max Mitchell, yeah. Now maybe their plan for Max Mitchell is he's going to become a guard, right? So that's the way it goes. Maybe the Jets think Max Mitchell actually is moving into guard. He's going to be a backup guard. Well, okay, that'd be interesting. I definitely don't want him playing tackle. Jojo said that would be a disaster if we didn't draft a right tackle in the first 3 rounds. Yeah, agreed. M. Morris, there are always hidden gems. Can our guys find them? Well, and that's what we got to find out. I mean, now, Darren Muji has a good reputation as a sharp eye as a talent evaluator, but we won't really know until he does his own first draft. And AG, of course, has the scouting background, so that makes you feel comfortable with him and the influence he's going to have over Muji. And then you have our scouts, who are mostly the same. We have the same scouts that we had under the previous regime. We didn't change any of them. But ultimately, Muji's the decision maker. Well, Muji and AG are the decision makers, and we'll see how they do. We can talk about it all we want. We won't know until draft day what actually happens. Dom C is here. He says, Dom, why would... Of course they've done extensive work on Mambu and Campbell. I'm going to assume, Dom, that the Jets have done extensive work on every first-round pick. Why wouldn't they? Including Kelvin Banks and Josh Connerly and Josh Simmons and whoever else and everybody else. Yeah, I would hope, Dom, that as an NFL club, you're going to do extensive work on all prospects that might come to your team. But I like Membu a little more than Campbell, but I like both. I like them about the same. And I like Kelvin Banks too. If we did a trade back, Dom, and we wound up with Kelvin Banks, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. Or somebody like that. Or even a Colston Loveland. EJ, what do you think the most disappointing? Let's think in the negative. What's the most disappointing thing? Uh, I don't know. I kind of think we're in a good spot, EJ, and we're going to get a good player of some kind. If we do a trade back, I mean, let's look at the draft board. What could we get wrong? What could be a disaster? This is a good question, actually. This is a good question, actually. Here's Malachi Corley. But like, what could go wrong? What could we possibly do that would screw this up? If we wound up with Cam Ward, would that be good or bad? Good. Abdul Carter, good. Travis Hunter, good. Shador Sanders, maybe picking Shador Sanders because he's so questionable. But it'd be interesting, and we'd say, all right, well, but I don't think that's going to happen. Mason Graham, that'd be good. Ashton Genty, probably Ashton Genty would be the weirdest thing. But then if we did that, then Brees Hall either has gotten traded or is going to be traded. So then we would pick up draft capital for Hall, and we'd be just swapping Genty for Hall plus draft capital. Will Campbell, that'd be good. Membu, that'd be good. Tyler Warren, that'd be good. Tet, for me, Tet would be questionable, but I like the player. I just don't think we need it because of the amount of targets that the offense is going to produce for the wide receivers, given that we already have Garrett Wilson. But on the other hand, if we wound up with Tet, then we have another, really nice wide receiver. That's not so bad. Jalen Walker, a lot of people love him. Like, for example, they want to move up to get him. Will Johnson, I guess if we took Will Johnson, but we're not going to take Will Johnson because we believe in Brandon Stevens so much. Shamar Stewart, Kelvin Banks. I mean, if we wound up with any of the realistic guys, like we're not going to take Will Johnson, we're not going to take Jahdae Barron. We're not. Like we have three cornerbacks that we believe in, and we're not going to take a fourth cornerback in the first round. I mean, we might take a cornerback at some point in the draft, but we're not going to take one in the first round when we just paid $12 million for Brandon Stevens. Whether you believe Brandon Stevens is worth $12 million or not, this regime does, and that salary tells you they really believe in him, based on uh, what they paid him. So I don't know. Jihad Campbell is a good linebacker. Mike Green. A lot of people love Mike Green and have him in the top 10 even. Some evaluators. Matthew Golden is a nice receiver. Some people have him as wide receiver one. Some people do. And then Colston Love. I mean, if we go down to 20, there's players that if we get them, are even Malachi Starks we have a need for. Kenneth Grant we have a need for if we made some crazy trades or something. I mean, it's almost, I don't want to say we can't go wrong because anything could go wrong. But I mean, look at these players. We have a need for almost all of them to some degree, right? So I don't know, EJ. I don't think there is. I mean, probably the most disappointing would be if we picked a cornerback, but we're not going to do that. Or maybe if we pick Shador, because then that blows up my Fields maxing theory. But maybe my theory's wrong. And then in that case, you go, okay, but now we got a future quarterback. It's Shador. It's the Shador show. All right. Well, I guess we don't believe in Fields that much, but then you kind of then have optimism about Shador. You would have to and say, okay, maybe it's Shador time. So I don't know, EJ. I don't know. It doesn't seem like we could really screw this up in the first round. Jojo says edge rusher in first round would be somewhat disappointing. Maybe, but some of these guys are really talented. And like I said, our depth at edge is thin. Michael Carter's our third edge, Jojo. Are you comfortable with that? Michael Carter as edge three? I'm not comfortable with that. Not Michael Carter, Michael Clemens. Michael Clemens as edge three. That's who it is. And you need four edges. So if you think one of these guys is a stud, like Jalen Walker, a lot of people think he's a stud. And that's why the Falcons want to trade up to with us to get him, like a real difference maker. And then we could, and they're all going to get. You need four of them. It doesn't matter who starts. It matters who gets snaps. In the NFL, it doesn't really matter who's starting because they come in and out on every play. People forget that. Sodak says a disaster would be they trade Brees and draft Genti at 7. Is that really a disaster? Why? So instead of having a stud running back and the picks you have, well, the why would be because of the opportunity cost of getting some of these players. Like, there's just no, like, real reason to make that trade because then you're getting you're just replacing Brees Hall with Ashton Genti, and then you're passing up all these guys. I mean, it depends what the trade is. What if we got an additional first, Sodak? What if we got Dallas's first round pick and we didn't have to give up 7? They wouldn't. I mean, that's a little crazy. What if we traded Brees Hall, a 4 and a 5 for Dallas's first round pick? Dallas needs a running back bad. They take Brees Hall and a 4 and a 5, and we get the 12th pick in the draft. Then we get Genti at 7, and you know Kelvin Banks at 12 or something. That's not bad. But then we're sacrificing some depth, but something like that. You know what I mean? Phil Adams, disaster would be, yeah, I think so because of my theory. Now, my theory can be wrong, Phil. I mean, my theory is from everything I can tell, from the tea leaves I'm reading, from everything everybody said and what we've done. It seems to me what we're doing is fields maxing, which means we're not drafting a quarterback at all. Sign a UDFA, bring him in here, UDFA, and see what Jordan can do, see what the UDFA can do, see what Adrian Martinez can do, etc. But not using a draft pick on them because we have all these other needs and you got to fill out the roster. And I think we're fields maxing, but my theory could be wrong. Maybe we're not. Maybe we're just saying that, and we really want some, Will Howard or something. I don't know. M. Morris, we could slide tip to right guard if center is BPA. Yeah, but there's no centers in this draft. There's literally none. I mean, not literally none, but there are very few centers in this draft, and there are none that you would want to do this for. So, like, if you would do this if Creed Humphrey was in this draft. You would do this if Tyler Linderbaum were in this draft, but they're not. There's somebody like that. You know what I'm saying? Then you could do that, and I would really just like to get right tackle solidified. It's also hard to, the position scarcity of tackles really uh, is a thing. That's why Membu or Cambu are so appealing to me. You just get them, you just get it and you set it and forget it. I mean, you got Olu on the left, and then whichever one of these we could get, you know, you on the right, and then to me, like I would love to get one of these guys, no trades, let's say, get one of these guys, and then you extend Simpson, extend AVT, and keep that line together for the next 5 years, you know? And that is very appealing to me. The continuity of the line. When you're constantly trying to mix and match and sign free agents and get them in here and get them acclimated, now they got to communicate together. Let a bunch of young guys be together. And I am president of the John Simpson fan club, by the way. President. El Presidente. We need to sign that guy long term ASAP. Love me some John Simpson. But, put together a line that can stay together. You see all these other teams signing free agents, signing guards for $20 million, and it doesn't really work out a lot of times. Brandon Scherf was signed by, Jacksonville when we signed Lake and Tomlinson, and they were big dollar signings, and both of those signings were disappointing to greater or lesser extents. Lake and much more than Scherf. We should have signed Scherf, as I said at the time, but I knew we weren't going to because of the San Francisco connection with Salah. But nonetheless, Scherf would have been better for us. But nonetheless, they were they were both disappointing for to varying degrees. When you have this offensive line Tetris where you're trying to like fit guys in and bring them in, and now you got to get together and just get a bunch of young guys and put them together for 5 years. That to me is very appealing. So that's why I would like to just get these one of these two very talented gentlemen, and that's your right tackle for the next 10 years, hopefully. And hopefully Olu the same on the left, and then, solidify and Joe Tippmann in the middle, and so forth and so on. BC Salami says, disaster would be if we somehow found this draft's Vernon Gholston. Yeah, but I don't think that guy exists. I don't think that guy exists in this draft. At least because going into that draft, there were a lot of questions about Vernon Gholston, and he's just sort of like this athlete who doesn't know how to play football. The guy from OSU is a good center. Okay, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know who it is, but let's look at Draft Tech. Draft Tech 2025 big board. Center. I don't see him in the top. What I'm saying is, so a guy like that, maybe you take him in the late rounds. He's not in the top 100. Sodek, I don't see him. What's his name? Now, you could take a guy like that, in the 5th, 6th round, something like that. But I'm saying there's no one significant that you would want to move. Jared Wilson is the first one I see from Georgia. 84th on the board. I see Jared Wilson as the top guy, and he's ranked 84th on the big board. So, some guys like that, sure. I mean, UDFAs all day. We're going to have to sign some UDFAs, and maybe they make the team. A guy like that. And plus, we love Ohio State guys, as we all know. So that's the only. So basically, out of the top 100 guys, the only one who's a center on the board is Jared Wilson out of Georgia, 6'3", 310. So there you go. There you go. Now, Dick Chimney has a column. Let's do a little review of Dick Chimney's takes. Let's see what he's looking at. Now, I think what you're going to notice in this column here, not a lot of news coming out of Jet World. And this may be part of the strategy that AEG is running with moving in silence. Because if you look at this column from Dick Chimney, it is pretty barren for news. This is the latest column from today, posted at 6 a.m. this morning. And it's basically just what this column is basically just what AG and Muji said in Palm Beach for the owners' meetings, and trying to scratch some news out of that. Like, we might be using Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis more. Oh, no. That might mean bad things for Breece Hall. No, it might mean good things for Breece Hall because maybe he'll be fresher and better on a per-snap basis. Next, the Glenn Doctrine. Is this groundbreaking? Competition is paramount. Oh, you mean the thing that every coach says at all levels, all the time? Okay. Youth is served. The bigger, the better. They like big players. Okay. So does everybody. Quiet is good. Yeah, this is the one I like. Glenn is old school. He prefers to move in silence, like the G in lasagna, as he called it. Inheriting a team that often portrayed as dysfunctional wants to change the culture and believes that starts with less noise. Observing, so here's a little bit of news. Observing Glenn at the meetings. So he observed him, looked at him, Chimney was giving him the old stinky eyeball. He was observing Aaron Glenn at the meetings. Okay, he was looking at him. It's clear that he's a serious-minded coach, not into idle chit-chat. We're not getting into, unlike Bobby Salads, not getting into all kind of conversations about this thing and that thing. No. No idle chit-chat. Serious-minded coach. I got film to watch, he's probably saying. I got to go watch film. I got to go break down 17 hours worth of film on Elijah Vera Tucker. Sorry, can't get into any idle chit chat. I gotta go watch Andre Sisco on film. You know, I like it. Quite an endorsement. Then he reports on something else that somebody else said about AG, which was Dan Campbell. You need a leader, man. Campbell said. You need a leader, and you need a guy that can hold people accountable. I'm talking about top down. As long as he's got the support, AG will turn that thing around. There's no question, man. That's what Dan Campbell said. He's an unbelievable leader. He's an even better person who makes people want to rally around him and do things to help him have success. Look, if he can't, nobody can. That's my opinion. Well, that's pretty high praise. Pretty high praise for AG, and hopefully he can deliver. Waiting on Rodgers. Wide receiver Alan Lazard could stay with the team, but he will have to take a significant pay cut on his $11 million non-guaranteed base salary. General manager Darren Bougie said they're working through a potential restructure. They could try to cut his salary to the neighborhood of $2.75 million, which is what Josh Reynolds is getting. The two receivers have similar career numbers. Lazard could be waiting to see if a reunion with free agent quarterback Aaron Rodgers is possible before deciding on the Jets' proposal. Possible extensions. This is going to be, as I've said, a talking point for all media for all time. Pay them, pay them, pay them. It's a way to get Jet fans to worry about these nice players that we have. Oh, you got a good player? Well, you're going to have to pay them. Pay them. Salary cap. Meh, meh. Be worried, worried. Clickbait, clickbait. Clickbait alert. Clickbait alert. The organization will wait until after the draft before exploring possible extensions for Gardner and Wilson, according to the Moodster. The Jets seem motivated to get them done, but it must make financial sense. Team officials speak highly of both players. Duh. Discussing Gardner, Glenn said, "This guy can be the best in the league." Coach added that the two-time All-Pro didn't have the best year last year, acknowledging that his tackling must improve. Yeah, I put out a video of Ahmad talking about the wide nine alignment, and how when they had a player like JFM here crashing everything down, it made his job backfilling easier, which is an interesting insight into, and JFM not being there then exposed his poor tackling techniques, whereas when a player like JFM was here, that didn't get exposed as much. And so those are the little intricacies of the game of why you need players like JFM and why that was one of the dumbest trades of all time. Well, not of all time, but in Jets history. Recent Jets history. Sneaky good. The Jets think they got a steal in Josh Myers. They're wrong about that. I think they got good value. They did not get a steal. 1 year, $2 million, 56 games. He's projected as a backup, but could push the incumbent. Not really. The Jets thought Myers would land a starting job somewhere. I'm sure his agent thought that too, but he was not a good starting center. He probably is a backup. But as a backup, that is a good value for a guy who has that many starts, because if you need him to, hey, he's there. And he's got the experience, and he won't be terrible. His arrival doesn't mean the Jets will shake up the O-line. There was speculation about Tippmann sliding, but that's not going to happen. And we like mobile quarterbacks. So does everybody. Liftoff. So in case you didn't know, our off-season program starts Monday. It's already starting tomorrow. Our off-season program starts tomorrow, April 7th. Teams with new coaches and couches are allowed to start 2 weeks earlier than the rest of the teams. Glenn cited two objectives: establish the new culture and get bigger, faster, stronger. Okay, that's what every coach always says. Full circle moment. Pete Carroll's first pick as an NFL head coach was in 1994 when the Jets chose Aaron Glenn at number 12. Pretty good pick, huh? Carroll said to ESPN. Carroll, 73, but gum chomping like he's 42. The new Las Vegas Raiders coach connected with Glenn in Palm Beach, his first former player to become a head coach. Last word, owner Woody Johnson wants to forget about the ill-fated Zach Wilson era. It began in 2021 when they picked the quarterback out of BYU number 2, behind Trev Lawrence and 9 spots ahead of Fields. Alluding to the 21 draft, Johnson conspicuously omitted Wilson last week when he said, "I think Justin Fields is going to be a total winner for us. I've been impressed with him since his college days. It was Fields or Trevor Lawrence, and I think he's going to be really good." Now, what he was probably talking about is that if you remember that year, and basically all throughout their college careers, it was Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. That's all anybody talked about. Lawrence Fields, Lawrence Fields. Coming out of high school, they were like, really highly touted prospects, and people forget that. But it was Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. These guys are going to be fantastic. They were great college players, and then they met in the national championship. People forget about that. And then they've had different trajectories in their pro careers, but man, Fields had a lot of promise back in the day. People often forget about it. And that's all that Chimney has. So this is kind of a weak column if you think about it. Not a lot of news breaking out of the Dick Chimney situation. So that's it as far as that goes. BC says, yeah, I read this article earlier today and said, why did I do this? Thinking, I know it's like, man, the only thing that's instructive there is the Jets are not giving him things to write about, which is good. Think about it, PC, right? Maybe the lesson there is this move in silence, silent like the G in lasagna. Maybe this is starting to work because do you really want to feed the beast? You know how many quotes Saleh would give, or some coach or some player would give to the media, and they would just pick and choose and make something big out of something that was nothing. The more you talk to them, the media's job is to make something out of nothing. That's what they do. That's their job. So the more you talk to them, the worse it is for you. Even if it's an innocent comment, even if it's just something that's obvious, if you phrase it wrong, you have the wrong tonality, whatever it is, they're going to take it and use it for their own purposes. They don't care about you, what your intentions were, or fair journalism or anything like this. They just got to do what they got to do, which is get them clicks, baby. It's click time. And so the less you give them, the better. And so they're going to be upset about it, and they'll probably criticize the move in silence thing as we move along because they're upset because this is how they make their living. You said this, now you're saying that. You said this 2 weeks ago, now you're doing this. Why is that? All of that sort of stuff. And so maybe this is the new way, which is what I've been advocating since Saleh came here. If you remember, I was one of the only ones saying Saleh talks too much. He thinks he can charm everybody. He thinks he can charm the media because he's a very charming guy. And if you met Robert Saleh in real life, you would probably be charmed by him and say, wow, I want to be this guy's best friend. He's awesome. I love Bobby Salads. But this is the media we're talking about. The media are the uncharmables. You cannot charm them. They are the uncharmables because they have a job to do. It's not because they're bad people. It's not because they're a bunch of morons. It's because they're told what to do. And if you want to keep your $1 million job, like Mike Greenberg or any of these people, Colin Clownherd, or any of them, you need to get people watching your show. You need people to click on your stuff. And the way to do that is not to be fair and honest and even keeled and examine every angle of a certain thing. It's to be controversial and to say weird shit and get people to go, oh, what is he talking about now? That's the job. So, that being the media landscape that we live in, you have to give them as little as possible. Yes, you do all of the league mandated PR things. You show up to the podium, you do everything you're required to do. And when they ask you a question, you answer it, and then you shut your fucking mouth. You move on. You give them as little as possible, and you speak in cliches as much as possible. And then you walk away and you don't worry about it and you go watch film or go coach somebody or go hit the weight room. You know, that's the way it is. And so I like this new approach. But you are going to hear the media um, harp on it a bit because they're pissed about it, especially if it doesn't work, especially if we keep losing. They'll start saying, I guess this move in silence thing didn't include wins. You're going to hear that out of Dick Chimney's mouth one of these days. Guess the move in silence thing was not really how you win ball games. So it's annoying, but I think hopefully, I mean, I've been advocating for this ever since Bobby Salads got here. I was like, Salads goes on these long talks and it's going to get him in trouble. And then on top of that, he would get emotional and say receipts, and we're going to get them in the playoffs. Talking about the Bills, we're not going to get them in the playoffs because we're not going to make the playoffs, and this and that, all these things that he said. And on top of that, he would give these long, meandering answers and da 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 da, and it all came back to haunt him and to bite him in the ass, as I said it would, because you cannot give these jackals a thing. You give the legally mandated and required answers to the questions, and you keep your mouth shut. Silencio. Silent. Like a mute driving a new hybrid, we move in silence like the G in lasagna. That's how we move. Like the killer silent, like the quiet professionals in the military. If anybody's been in the military, you know that the elite operators are known as the quiet professionals. They don't brag about it. They don't talk about it. They don't sit around yapping to the media about what they're doing. They just infiltrate, achieve objective, exfiltrate, go home, drink some Budweiser, and go to sleep. And that's it. And that's how we live in. B-Trav, Colin Clownherd. Yeah, and keep in mind, for those who don't know, Colin Clownherd owns a network of podcasts. A company's called The Volume or something like that. So if you see something that says The Volume, that means Colin Clownherd is the boss. He owns The Volume, which is all these podcasts out there. So anybody who has a volume podcast, their boss is Colin Clownherd, just FYI. Yeah, you don't give Beningo your cell number. You don't talk to Beningo at all, let alone giving him your damn cell number and texting back and forth. That was so ridiculous. Wasn't that B Trav? I mean, Joe Beningo, the man who loves when the Jets lose. I mean, if there's one thing that you have to understand, people like Joe Benigno only became known and famous and had a job in media because the Jets lose so much, and then he would go on his famous rants. Right, he's the rant guy. So you think do you really think Joe Beningo wants the Jets to win? Really? His entire fame and fortune and attention and everything about his life is the way it is because the Jets lose and are bad and are terrible and are in the ghetto of the NFL city, as I often say. Do you really think Joe Beningo wants the Jets to win and to have a sustained winner? Because what would he have to say then? No one would pay attention to Joe Beningo if the Jets are winning and had a model franchise and somehow moved into the gated community of the NFL. Somehow. We could all dream, right? Joe Beningo would have nothing to say and nobody would pay attention to him. He doesn't want the Jets to win. And yet Saleh thought he could manipulate it. Now, keep in mind, Saleh manipulated somebody like Grant Cohn. So you guys know Grant Cohn, the YouTuber. A lot of what's behind Grant Cohn's content when he's doing like football specific stuff is Saleh talking to Grant Cohn anonymously. Just FYI. So he thought he could do the same thing here. He thought he could manipulate and cajole and charm and get people to do what he wants in the media. And it just didn't work because that's stupid. Yeah, sure, you can manipulate Grant Cohn into saying what you want. It's not going to work here. We don't have a Grant Cohn, you know. So uh, it was just so bad, so bad. Phil Adams, what's the plans for live streams this week? Um, I don't know. I don't know. You guys, you tell me in the chat. We started to do some news days, news nights, like 6 p.m. But then people weren't really watching or, you know, participating. So let me know in the chat if you want me to continue those or not. I could do them, or I could just do recorded videos. I kind of like the idea of going live, but if folks aren't going to be into it or show up or pay or comment, then there's no point in doing them live, right? The whole point of the live is the chat, right? You guys are the point. Like whether you know it or not, the whole point of doing a live stream is the interactive chat. That's what makes it fun. So if it's too much to do a daily 6 p.m. show for people to show up and comment and give a crap about what I'm talking about, then I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do a live show for no one. I don't mind doing a recorded program for no one. Um, See, PC says, yeah, I can't be around for it. So maybe it's too much. It's like too much to expect people to show up. But I do have a video coming out tomorrow. I'm kind of interested to see if people will like it. I'm going to show you the thumbnail because I'm excited by it. I'm excited by the thumbnail, baby. Look at this thumbnail. Do, 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 do. Do, do, do. Now let's see if people. This is coming out tomorrow. Look at that thumbnail. It's a video about Garrett Wilson. I kind of like it. I kind of like it. It's all about how Garrett Wilson's going to go off next year. Now, that one comes out tomorrow. Let me know what you think about this video when it comes out tomorrow. It's very different from how I've done videos in the past. So be curious to know if people actually like this kind of video. Um, but we'll see. Maybe people will hate it. I don't know. You never know on YouTube. I tell you that much. You never know on YouTube. But yeah, it's about how Garrett Wilson's going to go off. I like that thumbnail. Are people going to like that thumbnail? I don't know. That's the thing. You could watch YouTube tutorials. Here's how to do thumbnails to get people to watch your video. Here's how to do title, and then you do it, and then like nobody clicks it. All these people who give you this advice on how to do a thumbnail and how to do this and that, they're all wrong. But I like this video. We'll see how it does tomorrow. Uh, yeah, G Dub as a superhero, right? That's what it is, Phil. And it's all about how G Dub's going to go off next year. And but yeah, so I don't know if 6 p.m. every day is too much for folks. Maybe it's too much, Phil. Maybe once a week or maybe twice a week for news. Maybe I'll do on a Wednesday night, kind of like a midweek. But the thing is, there's not a lot of news breaking now. It's a very soft time in the NFL schedule. So Harlan says the only thing about a live show is don't always know that you're on. Yeah, I was gonna try to do. Uh, I was gonna try to do 6 p.m. every night, like a 6 p.m. like news, like a FSPN. That's where FSPN came from, where it's like every night at 6, like the old Sports Center, something like that. But it'd be Frankie Center, where we cover. And that's why I was trying to cover a little bit extra sports like baseball. By the way, the Yankees continue to play well, 6-2, first place. Aaron Judge continues to be amazing, and a little bit of UCF. Putting in there a little bit extra, a little different sports stuff. But I don't know. It didn't really take off. People weren't really clicking with it, and people weren't commenting. So there's no, if it's not going to work for the chat, then I'd rather just do specific videos on specific things and not necessarily here's the news of the day. Maybe there isn't really an audience for that. So we'll see. Sodak says, I love the hire, but Salo is a dumbass. Well, he was a dumbass when it came to the media. And then the media then portrays you. That's the thing. People don't understand the importance of the media. The media will have an effect on 90% of the fan base's opinions. Most people think they come up with their own opinions, but they don't. They just they just adopt the opinions of their media of choice, whatever their media of choice might be. And the media says da 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 this, they just absorb that and it becomes their own opinions. This has been proven in study after study. And so then therefore, and that's the way it is. You could argue about it. You could not like it. You could say people should come up with their own opinions, but that's the way it is. And so if that's the way it is, then you then have to treat the media in a certain way. And the way you do it is like you don't have to be as surly as Bill Belichick was, but Belichick had the right idea. I'm going to show up only when I have to, and I'm going to give as short an answer as possible. And that's it. And I'm going to get out of here. And nobody is going to care because I'm going to have my team go on the field and win. And therefore, everybody's going to know I hate the media, and that's how I'm going to treat you. Now, you don't have to be as surly and, like exactly like him, but you could do a version of it where you just give the minimum, bare minimum. PC Salami. Yeah, Yankees, UFL, and UCF, not too interesting to me at this point in my life. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like if you try to branch out, the Jet specific people are going to be like, why are you branching out? Because I'm just here for the Jet stuff, Frankie. And it's like other people will be like, oh, this is kind of interesting. I like the Jets and Yankees. UCF, I should probably just carve out specific things for them. I think I'm going to do some UCF content, but I'll probably just carve it out, you know. Sodak says, I just absorb Frankie's opinions. Well, that's funny, but it could be true. Like your media of choice could be Matt O'Leary. It could be it could be Green Bean. It could be Frankie. But most people, it's the major news. It's ESPN and them. So the short answer is I don't know, Phil. I don't know what we're going to do this week. I don't think those little news 6 p.m. daily news live streams. I don't think they really worked. Um, so I don't know. We'll see how this video performs tomorrow. If this video performs well tomorrow, I'll do more of them. You'll see there's a different type of video that's coming out about Garrett Wilson tomorrow morning. And if that does really well in terms of views, then I'll do more of them because it's sort of like the first type of video I've made like that. Uh, and so I could do so if people don't like that, then I won't do that. But if people like it, then maybe I'll do more of those because that was kind of fun to make. Jojo says when football season starts again and everyday show work, people don't pay attention to other sports like they used to. Yeah, if you think about the cycle of the NFL week, right? Oops. If you think about the cycle of the NFL week, um, Sunday's the game, so you could do a show on Sunday night, saying here's the reaction to let's talk about the game, what the game that just happened. Then Monday the coach talks again, so you could talk about what the coach said on Monday. Tuesday is a day off, but there's always something to talk about remaining, talk about the game, the upcoming opponent. Wednesday the coach talks again and the first injury report comes out, so who's on the injury report for Wednesday? Thursday, injury report comes out again. Friday, and Thursday, the coordinators talk to the media. Oh, and probably Monday and Tuesday, some of the players talk to the media. So you could talk about those interviews. And this is all just regular stuff like breaking news, trades, transactions, dropped this guy, picked up that guy. This guy got injured. That guy's having a problem with his family dog and stuff like that. And then Friday, the coach talks again. Then Saturday, the call ups happen. So you talk about who's going to get called up for the game from the practice squad, if anybody. and then Sunday the game comes. So it's like it's quite a cycle during the season. It can burn you out. Now, it can also burn you the hell out as a creator because there's a lot to keep up on. And then you might want to make some recorded videos and also. So B-Trav, Parcells never praised. Yeah, that's another part of it, B-Trav. That's a good point. I mean, it's one thing. They would just praise them to the high heavens to the point where they all thought they were walking on water, I think. DJ Reed, we're going to be the 85 Bears. What the hell are you talking about, DJ? So, things like that. So I do think that has an effect because the players do listen to the coaches when they talk to the media. And I think they adopt, sort of like people adopt the opinions of the media. I think a lot of the players adopt the words and attitudes of the coaches. So we'll see. Joe Mike, will you do a final mock before the draft? Probably not. If you notice, I haven't done much mocking. Last week we did a little bit of a mock, but I know people like the mock drafts. I personally don't see that much. I personally don't. Um, we'll have to see. I mean, I guess I mean, it's an obvious content idea. There's a lot of people doing mock drafts, and people make a whole career out of doing mock drafts, to be honest with you. Um, so I guess maybe. I mean, there's going to come a point where there's nothing going on. We're going to have to, we're probably, to be honest, we probably will have to do some mocks just to have some content. I mean, think about it. From now until the draft is 20, about, 18 days. What the hell is going to happen now, within these 18 days? I mean, the owners' meetings are over. I don't think there's anything. There's pro days going on. The teams are hunkered down, and the Jets again are moving in silence, so they're not leaking anything to the media. So it's going to be next 3 weeks are going to be difficult content wise. That's why I think so. Tomorrow's video with Garrett Wilson. I'd like to see how that goes. If people really like that, I can make more videos like it going forward. It's not really news oriented. You know what I mean? So that would be something. And I could do one for Jermaine. I could do one for Sherwood. I could do one for Sauce. I could do one for a bunch of people. Flight right 49. Yeah, and this is essentially the same thing, right? Flight right. And this is why this is the lesson with the media. You can't say something nuanced like that because then they take it out of context. And that's why you can't even say anything like that. And the problem was he was taking his cue from Saleh and the rest of them who just say all sorts of weird shit in the media. And then the media clips it out. That's the whole point. The media clips out a little piece of it. And then now you just said you're the 85 Bears. Right. And so that's what's wrong with it. You can't say things like that. Even if even if your intentions are good, like I said, even if your intentions are good, even if your intentions are nuanced and you're saying we have the potential, the feeling, the ceiling, the floor, the this, the that, da 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 da, they're going to take what they want and make you look like a jackass. And that's the point. You can't give the media any of that stuff at all under any circumstances, under any conditions and nuance and da da da. You cannot. It's bad, bad, bad business because you have to understand the media landscape. They're not in the business of just being accurate and saying this person has wonderful intentions and da da da. That's not the way it goes with this media where we're in now. So you can't say anything like it. Understanding they're going to mischaracterize you. They're going to put it into a bad light. They're going, especially if you then don't do it. If you're not an awesome defense, then then the words then they just use it to kill you. It's terrible. It's terrible what this media is all about. But it is what it is. You can't change it, and it's not going to change. Should be plenty of content right before the draft and after the draft with film reviews. Yeah, so the problem is with film reviews is if you see something like what Joe Blewett's doing, JoJo, to do an in-depth film review like he does probably takes 10 hours for one guy to do. Like takes 10 hours and it's grueling work, man. So I would say I would just point people to Joe Blewett. If you want in-depth film reviews, go to Joe Blewett. Joe's the best, one of the best, let's just say. If you want a secondary guy, Connor Rogers, also awesome. Let those guys do the film breakdowns because they're really good at it and they put in the work and it's grueling. Tape grinding the tape is hard work, and that's why these guys who do a good job of it should be celebrated. Speaking of which, there's a really good article on Jets X Factor that I recommended on X, written by Andrew Fialco. And I would recommend everybody take a look at it. It's about the type of plays and offense, actual plays, like from the playbook, like real plays where he knows what it's called, RPO slice, right, 43 bunch, blah, 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 all that. And it shows like 10 or 12 examples of things that were likely to run based on intense film study from the Lions, etc. So I would recommend everybody check out Jets X Factor. Check out that Andrew Fialco article. It also includes little film snippets so you can see it in action. It's really well done. But those, if you really want it, so I could, for example, we did the Stone Smart one, right? But that was easy because he didn't have that many plays. And I just took the plays where he was catching a pass, basically. So that was easy to do. But if you're going to, and just to say, what kind of receiver can this guy be? Look at these skills. Look at his skill set. Look at his hands. Look at his route running. Look at his leaping ability. He actually is very good at high pointing the ball and stuff. So that was easy to do. But if you're going to do like a real breakdown of Mason Graham or Colson Love, like let's say we wanted to do like John Bushnell saying here, Colson Loveland and Tyler Warren, two very different players. If you wanted to do a video like this would be a good video, right, John? Let's take a look at the top two tight ends in the draft, and let's see what are their pros, what are their cons, what do they do well, what do they not do well. Let's compare and contrast, right? That'd be a nice video. That'd be a really now that type of video would probably end up being at least 1 hour long, and the amount of work you'd have to put in would be probably 12 to 15 hours of grinding the tape because you got to look at their blocking, you got to look at what they do. For Warren, you got to look at him running the ball, passing. He actually passes the ball, Tyler Warren. You got to look at him in the Wildcat. You got to look at him pass blocking. You got to look at him run blocking. Then you got to look at all the times he caught the ball. What about all the times he dropped the ball? Does he have problems with his hands? What about times he screwed up his route? What about it's a lot of grinding, right? So if you wanted to really look at these two players right here and do a fair evaluation, you would probably need to have, it would wind up being 1 hour's worth of film, study tape, video, and, and dozens of hours just looking at these guys and trying to break it down and give you exemplary, because for every 5 plays maybe 10 plays you watch, a lot of times guys are not doing anything. So they're out of the play. They don't do anything significant. So but then you got to watch all those, and then it's very difficult. So I would point people to Joe Blewett and Jets X Factor. Those guys do a really nice job. But I'm not going to do it because except for like really unique cases, like I was thinking of doing one for LT3. But even that's a lot of plays to look at. Like the video idea would be, can LT3 make a big leap this year? I think he can, but if you want to make the case, you got to look at the tape and you got to show people, here's why. Here's what he did well. Here's what he didn't do well and why. Here's the hand placement. Here's this, that, and the other thing, upfield burst, all the things that the scouts look for. Here's where he's lacking. He can improve this. He can't improve that. He's going to have a problem with this. So we'll see. If you're looking at a guy in college, though, there's so much tape to look at that it's pretty intense, I would say. PC says, yeah, I was watching lots of YouTube sports stuff this past year, which I never did before, and it astounded me how much they hated Rodgers and how much they posted drama-inducing videos for clicks. Yeah, and some of it, I mean, if you look back at it, PC, how much of that is true? Remember when that guy said Aaron Rodgers is a cancer and he's metastasized inside the building and we all made fun of him? Maybe he was right. You ever think of that? Maybe Rodgers was a cancer this year. Maybe the Jets, the way they treated Rodgers was really a problem, which I think it was. And so some of it his fault, some of it the club fault. But people are, look, people are in the business of getting clicks and views. That's the business. They're not in the business of just putting out a informationally correct video. They're in the business of getting clicks and views and click-through rate. Clicks, views, and click-through rate, which means how long do people keep watching the video. That's the business if you're on YouTube. That's the business. Click-through rate. You got to get them to click it, and then they got to watch the whole thing. And if you do that, you're a successful YouTuber. Doesn't matter how, doesn't matter why, doesn't matter what you got to do to get them to keep watching it. But that's how you're measured. You're not measured on how fair and balanced and how correct your information is. I mean, people have been wrong for a long time. Do you realize Todd McShay has been wrong for a long, long time about just about everything? And yet he's still on TV. He's still on, goes on ESPN talking about prospects. Nobody pulls his prospect evaluation card after he, like, bad take after bad take after bad take after bad take. He had first round grades on Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ritter, uh, Sam Howell, Malik Willis, and Matt Corral. First round grades on all those people. Not a one should have had first round grades. Matt Corral is out working at Enterprise Rent-A-Car or something at this point in time. He had first round grades on all five, as one example. Absolutely loved Zach Wilson as another example. Called him a combination of Mahomes and Drew Brees. Zach Wilson. And Todd McShay keeps on getting jobs and keeps on going on ESPN. Nobody's taking his card away for evaluating prospects, even though he gets everything wrong all the time, constantly. Why is that? I don't know. It's the world we live in, PC, and that's the world we live in, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you for joining me for Coffee with Frankie on this Sunday morning. If you're new here, please click the subscribe button. We would appreciate it. If not, click the like button. We would appreciate that. And if you want exclusive items like the PFF Draft Guide and the Athletic Dane Brugler Draft Guide and many, many other things, including actual NFL playbooks, you do that and you get access to all those things by joining the Inner Circle. There's a join button underneath this video, $5 a month, and it's all yours. All exclusive items, emojis, and other things. Click the join button. And with that being said, I'll see you guys this week, and I'll see you for coffee